we want to do is we want to get some sort of understanding of the concept of a revenue model. Now, a revenue model is very different from what we would call a business model. Now, in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, there was a big belief that what you had to do was to work out a business model, and that business model could be transferred online, and that you could exploit things like transaction costs in order to make your business a competitive business, give it a competitive advantage, and ultimately make profits. So it was this idea that the transaction costs, or the amount of money that it cost you to perform a transaction, could be lowered just because you were doing it online. And so if you could create a business model to support that, that would work. The reality is that business models on their own don't really work. What you kind of find is that they don't possess really important characteristics of a successful business. Now, one of those important characteristics of a successful business is a method for attracting or going to or accessing customers. So a business model doesn't necessarily say how you're going to get to those customers. This is the way that you can always see it. One of the biggest businesses that always fail are restaurants. And that's because they're normally based upon a business model. So the guy says, there are loads of students, they're all in New Cross, so we're going to open up a burger bar. So this is going to sell lovely burgers, and it's going to sell chips and milkshakes, and we're going to open it up, and we can sell a burger and chips with a milkshake for, I don't know, £4. We can make it for £2. We'll make £2 profit. So they open it up, and for a couple of weeks people come, and then no one comes. And they go, well, maybe we need to make the prices cheaper. So they make the prices cheaper, no one comes. Maybe we need to make more different types of burgers, shinier burgers, bigger burgers. So they do that, no one comes. Eventually they close it. Because they never considered how they were going to actually attract customers. They thought that their product alone would do it. But the product alone is competing with all the other products out there. And all the other restaurants, and the Indian and the Chinese and the Turkish restaurant and the Cypriot restaurant, you know, it's competing with lots of them. It's competing with the fact that the college serves food. Do you understand the difference? And so what I'm saying is that part of your business model, part of your business has to be a revenue model that identifies how you're going to attract customers and keep attracting customers. And that's a difficult thing to do. Another area, of course, is you have to explain how you're going to actually raise revenue. And what we found online is that businesses go through different cycles of raising revenue and different ways of doing that. So if you take the Sun newspaper, do you know the Sun newspaper? Okay, the Sun newspaper is like our Quality Daily for the working class. It has women with no tops on page 3, and it has about 25 pages of sport at the end. You get the idea. I think he's got a subscription. Right? You get the idea, right? Now, for years, the Sun was sold in shops for X amount of money. It then created an online version, which became incredibly popular. Yeah, people would look at the Sun online. But they didn't charge anything for it. Lots and lots of people went to it. Lots and lots of people read the stuff. No one paid. So they hoped that advertising online would pay for it. But the advertising online didn't come anywhere near paying for it. And because it didn't come anywhere near paying for it, eventually Rupert Murdoch, who was the owner ultimate owner of the Sun, decided that he was fed up. And he said that the only model that would work is if we charged a subscription for it. So if you see the adverts now, it's called Sun Plus. And they charge an amount of money each month to have online access to the Sun. What they do is they add some extra things in to get you to buy it. One of those things is you can see a goal as soon as it's been scored. If you're desperate to see, Aston Villa's latest goal against West Brom the moment it's scored, pay your 10 quid a month and you're in there. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is an evolution of it. So that's one of the things. We want to really understand is how some companies change their revenue models to achieve success. One of the biggest companies like that was Amazon. Now, for a long time, Amazon tried to supply stuff itself. So it created great big warehouses, it bought stock, it stuck them in those warehouses and sold them as Amazon. Does it do that today? What does it do now? How does it work now? How does Amazon work now?
They get different companies to pay for rights to sell their products on the website.
Correct. So they charge a transaction fee for transactions through their website. And they take a tiny little bit of money every time it happens. Can anyone else think of another company that does that? eBay. eBay, weirdly enough, is one of the few internet businesses that made money from day one. It never was in the red. Always made money. Because it took a tiny little bit from whatever was going through it. And when nothing was going through it, it didn't get anything, but it wasn't losing anything. And then when stuff went through it, it did very well. So that's the classic idea of charging per transaction or per service. Yeah? Okay. Now, the other thing that we want to be able to do is understand how do you create an effective or a good web presence. Now, an effective or a good web presence has certain characteristics. Things like usability, things like trust, yeah, things like stickiness. Right? What do I mean by stickiness? What I mean is how many times and how often you go back to it. Yeah? That's stickiness and how you can create that. Now, one of the most popular online newspapers in the world is a newspaper called the Daily Mail, online. Now, the weird thing is in the real world, in the physical world where we are today, most people in England wouldn't even admit to reading it. They'd go, the Daily Mail, leave me out, it's fascist rag, it's terrible. Da, da, da. But the online version, people are at it every day. You know, they're weak at the knees going for it. Yes, sir.
Well, I work at Waitrose on a Saturday, and we have a deal where you spend over £5, you get one of the newspapers free.
Yep.
And one of them is the Daily Mail, and we shift about 400 on Saturday alone. Yeah. And they go very quickly.
Yeah, so, people love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just don't admit it. Mate, Daily Mail's a weird readership. It's definite Waitrose readership. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? You ain't going to shift many Suns in Waitrose, but you'll shift an awful lot of Daily Mails. But the Daily Mail online is one of the most popular newspapers in the world. It's massive. Why? Because it has a bar of pure gossip. And that pure gossip, that bar, is so sticky, people just come back for the gossip every day. They come back to see whether Giselle could be caught with no makeup on coming out of the gym. They come back to see whether Tom Cruise is shorter than the bloke that lives next door to him. It's just like that. And there's just piles of it. And it's just so sticky. And people just come back and they come back because they love it. They love the sort of bite-sized horribleness of the bar. Do you know what I mean? So they invented that. And I'm telling you, go to it once. It's like a drug. It's a bit like heroin. You go to it once, you're there for life. Come back in the deep of the night using the bar on the side of the Daily Mail. I'll show it to you. Okay, so first of all,
idea. Let the store come to the people.
have a look at this.
We created virtual stores, hoping to blend into people's everyday lives. Our first try was subway stations. Although virtual, the displays were exactly the same as actual stores, from the display to the merchandise. Only one thing was different. You used smartphones to shop. Scan the QR code with your phone, and the product automatically lands in your online cart. When the online purchase is done, it will be delivered to your door right after you get home. People can relax more after work and on weekends. Moreover, we could change their waiting time to shopping time. After this campaign, online sales increased tremendously. Through this
Okay, so let me show you how easy it is. You touch to start, and here you are in a virtual fridge, and you basically choose what you want. So on the app, you press scan, and I want some semi-skim milk. So I'll go in the milk. Did you hear that bleep? How satisfying is that? It's fabulous, and I'm going to add that. This is the hardest for the season. Okay. No. It's a little too busy, too purple, too short, too hot. Yeah, that's new. Okay. I think my mom wore this. This is great. Where did I sign? Just did.
When you come home from your holiday, you've not got time, or it's quite early hours in the morning, you just want to get home and go to bed. So, yeah, good idea.
I just came back from 3.5 weeks of holiday, came back to Scotland. That's all I had to eat really in the fridge was Marmite. So it would be good actually if I could order my groceries before I went.
Smartphone usage is amazing. The adoption of that technology is rocketing, and a good thing for us to be pioneering and leading for customers.
It's all about trying to make busy people's lives that much easier.
So what do we think of that as a new type or a new way of doing business? Who likes it as a concept? You really like it? What do you like about it?
Like more about the shopping things, like products of groceries.
Yeah.
Because like people don't have enough time to go
To the shop.
to the shop. So there, for example, can be on the train.
Yeah.
You can have one of these, and while people are going home, they can buy the products and
Yeah.
like you can see what you want and choose.
And choose it. Yeah, very, very cool. What else? What else did we think of that? That was done by the Korean version of Tesco. And now it's being piloted by Tesco in the UK. And they thought that places like airports were great for it. Yes, sir.
I'm just going to counter that. I don't really like it. The fact is that 9% of people do not shop online, like for groceries. Like, I agree that it could work for something, but groceries, I know there's the fact of it being easy, that you can have it when you're at home, but the fact that not many people like to shop for that online.
Do you remember what we said about types of products that are good for sale online?
Yeah.
Do you remember I used a word? What was the word? commodity. I said that if something was a commodity, and I said if it was a DVD, it's the same DVD every time. If it's a game, it's the same game every time. Whether I buy it in Tesco or I buy it in a Virgin or I buy it, it's the same game, isn't it? Yeah. And a lot of the stuff that they were looking at there were commodity items. Yeah. So they were like pints of milk, yeah, packets of sausages. What Tesco's has reduced to a no-brainer in a way. The other interesting thing with that is it wasn't online.
Yeah, you can choose that. It's almost in a grocery. You just.
It's not online. You're in the tube station with your phone. Do you know what I mean? You're not online. You're not sitting at a computer with a mouse or even looking on a website on a phone. You're in the physical world. Now, what this tells us is that eventually this table will be a screen anyway, so you can read the newspaper or whatever you want from that screen, and you should also be able to buy your groceries off that screen by scanning it, but also if you're in the tube or in the doctor's surgery or anywhere else. So it has potentials. I mean, of course, it's very, very inefficient. Why is it very inefficient?
Just one person can do it.
Yeah, that's right. You've got this big expensive screen, you've recreated a whole shop and only one person can use it at a time. That's not very cool, is it?
Also, like when you see like in the Asia or like East part, they are used to using QR codes, but
yeah. Sometimes
on Western they don't want to see God looking on the subway scanning juice.
You look too insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. There is a social kind of thing that makes it different. Okay, now let's just get our heads into today rather than scanning bits on tube stations, right? Right, there are lots and lots of web business generating models. The most classic is what we call the web catalog. Yeah, so that is recreating our old-fashioned paper catalog version as a web version, right? So we create a web version of it. We add a few features, the search, for example. We add the shopping cart and we go on that way. The second is this idea of selling or generating revenue through digital content. The most successful shop in history is what? In the whole of human history, the most successful shop? The iTunes store. Where is the iTunes store? Does it have bad stock in the iTunes store? Does it have out-of-date stock in the iTunes store? No. It's just pure digital content. It's a purely digital business. Most successful shop of all time. Lots and lots of businesses are advertising supported, right? So if I go onto YouTube, yeah, the way that YouTube is meant to pay for itself, which it doesn't do, but the way it's meant to pay for itself is through horrendous amounts of advertising. Yeah? Pre-roll, post-roll, ads down the sides, just ads for history. Agreed? It's an advertising supported model. Sometimes you get a mixture between the two, where you get advertising and subscription. So if you look at somebody like the Daily Telegraph online, newspaper, you can read up to 20 stories, I think, which are supported by advertising. After that, if you want to continue reading, you have to take a subscription. So partly supported by advertising, partly supported by subscription. Sky TV, you know Sky TV? It's a mixed model, isn't it? Partly it's supported by advertisers, and partly it's supported by a subscription service. So people subscribe to football, they subscribe to films, they subscribe to documentaries. but they get for free, supported by advertising, Sky News, Sky Sports News. Do you see what I mean? So it's a mixed model. Then there are also ones which are fee-based. You pay a certain amount of money to get that service or that product. So Apple have got their my arm up my back, and it's called Apple Cloud Services, right? And every year they take £25 off me to use their cloud computing services. I don't even know what their cloud computing services are, but they're taking it. Because when I take photos, they got to go somewhere. They seem to go to Steve Jobs. He's dead, so they go into the world of Apple. I have to pay 25 quid a year. Seems to be the deal, right? So, do you understand what I mean? So it's Apple Cloud Services are a fee-based paying service. These kind of models, these kind of revenue models, these revenue generating models work for both businesses to customer and businesses to business. They work for both, right? They work for both.
James.
Yes.
I had a doubt. Like, there's a couple services that startups they get investments from I don't know, from people, but sometimes they don't have ads or the amount of money to get into the app is not enough to maintain it, but they keep getting money from investors, hoping that they'll sell, like WhatsApp, for instance. Yeah. How does that work? Is that considered a revenue model, like getting money from investors?
No, that's investment. It's not a revenue generating model. It's a good question. Yeah, you're talking about investment, right? Now, there are many ways of looking at it. Okay. I created a business over the last 4 years that spent about 4 million quid, maybe a bit more, right? We had very little revenue. Our thinking was this: if you can own a space in the digital world in a big enough way, you can subsequently create products or services to sell to the customers that are in that space. So it's this idea of owning the space. Now, the classic one is YouTube. YouTube has never made a profit. Ever. Ever. It's a massive, massive loss-making machine. Why would Google buy it? Because it's the biggest video platform in the world. Google Video didn't work. YouTube was too dominant. Do you understand what I mean? So by Google buying it, they own the space. Now the weird thing with YouTube is it works on a zero business model. It doesn't even take money from its customers. So how can you compete? How could you make a YouTube 2 when YouTube 1 doesn't even take money from its customers? Do you understand what I mean? And we're going to look at that stuff today. There is another argument. The other argument is this. All of this is what we would call smoke and mirrors. It's all tricks. Why would people say that? They say that if you look at things like Facebook and WhatsApp and these other businesses that fundamentally don't seem to be making the revenue that's doing the do, what are they? Well, what they are investment vehicles. They're things for people to speculate on. So whether they work, exist or not, they're just things to speculate on. You know, like with betting, you have horses and then you've got cars, but people will bet on anything. They'll bet on 2 spiders running up a wall. And some people argue that these corporations are really massive, massive businesses to allow people to speculate. They're like, in the old days, mines. Yeah, you'd create a mine. You'd say there's a mine here. It could have gold in it. We don't have any gold out of it yet, but this mine here in the bottom part of Brazil could have gold in it. So do you want to buy shares in it just in case we find the gold? Yeah, then we find it, and yeah, you get some shares. And then we find a little bit of gold, and your shares go up because we found a little bit of gold. Yeah, do you see what I'm saying? And so there's this argument that they're just created as investment vehicles. And there's another argument that says all of these things that people call tech companies and startup companies, fundamentally, they're all just flogging advertising. They're just obsessed with selling us stuff to get us to buy stuff. And that's all they are. Do you see what I mean? So they're just massive billboards that just look different ways. So these are good questions we have to ask ourselves, yeah? Okay. The original web catalogue came from the old school mail order catalogue model. Now the old school mail order catalogue model, I don't know if you had it in Brazil, but what we used to have years ago was you would get a catalogue through the door and it would have pictures in it of products and services, yeah? And you would look through them and then you would choose the products you wanted and you would fill in a form, send them a check, and they would send the products back. In England, poor people often used them because you could pay in stages. So if you wanted to buy this dress, you could pay in 6 parts through the catalogue. Do you understand what I mean? The biggest one in England was a catalogue called Freeman's. That was one of the biggest ones, Freeman's catalogue. But it was something that poor people did, really. Now, digitally, it's something that we all do. The digital one replaces the original catalogue with a new, more advanced, computer-based catalogue, yeah? So, first of all, you get this kind of thing. So this is our ASOS. And what we can do is we can do stuff that you couldn't do with a catalogue. The catalogue had printed pictures, but here we can sort by different styles. We can say what kind of price range we're looking for stuff in, yeah? So I say, tell us what shoes you got under 100 quid. Tell us what shoes you got between 100 and 150 quid. You can't do that with a catalogue. You just got to go through the catalogue in a linear direction. But with this, you can say, tell me what you've got that's red for under 300 quid. So you can do queries. You can turn around and say, okay, tell me what you've got for in a UK size 4. That kind of stuff. And then, so that's a good example. Right. There are lots of them. All the shops like Tesco, Walmart, okay, all of these ones and Costco, all of them, they've all gone for that catalogue model. Yeah? Now, what we also see are what we call a mixed marketing model, where you have a physical store, but you also have a website, and you might also have catalogues, yeah, which are mailed out. Who does that? IKEA, yeah? So IKEA, the clothing people and the furniture people, sorry, they've got physical stores, they've got websites, and they have mail out catalogues that they send out to people as well, yeah? They do all three. Argos in the UK, Argos do all three. So, good example is somebody like Currys, and they do, it's a good example.
Years of research to create what they hope is the store of the future. Gone are the drab, dull displays and wall-to-wall products. Instead, something new. The focus is on giving customers more of an experience in the store.
So this is new. We've got these perch tables, we call them, where we can actually sit with the customer and really talk about a product that they've chosen that they think is right for them.
The boss told me all retailers are now having to adapt.
Well, I'm optimistic about the high street, actually. I think that shopping is fun. I think that those retailers who make shopping fun and continue to make shopping fun will succeed. And those who don't are doomed, and we just have to recognise that and move with the times.
The electricals business is cutthroat, not least because it's so easy to compare prices these days. Of course, you can also use your smartphone in the store. The challenge for this company is to turn an experience into an actual sale.
That's no mean feat when more of us are using shops as showrooms, but heading online to seal the deal, and that may mean a big rethink for many retailers.
You can't look at a store and say, does it make money or not? Because actually, it may not make money directly, but it might perform a crucial role in driving money to websites.
But here in Bluewater, do shoppers still want to buy in store?
If it was a big ticket item, to be honest, I would still buy it in a store, because not all stores on the internet are stores on the internet. So last time I bought a TV, I bought it in a local store because I knew I could walk in there if there was a problem with it and do something with it.
I like to have customer service. I like to be with, I like to have somebody who can relate to me and the goods that I need, give me the information I need. And I'd go back there to the store, so if there are any problems, I'd go back to the store. So I wouldn't, no. I wouldn't.
And also, it's good to be able to see and touch and feel and try what you're buying, which you never get online, and then you end up having to return it because it's not quite what you're expecting.
I go to stores sometimes to try them, and then I go probably buy them online, see if they've got better deals online. So.
This electrical chain is the last man standing on the high street, and if it wants to stay there, it needs this new format to be a success to keep the customers coming in. Emma Simpson, BBC News.
Okay, so what are Currys and Dixons trying to do? What are they trying to do?
Trying to get the customers to do the work themselves in a way, but because majority of the thing, as they said in the video as well, so that they show them like this the product and stuff. You can just purchase it online and stuff with all the payments and stuff. I don't know how to explain it, but that's what I'm trying to get.
What do you think they're trying to do? Anyone else? What do you think? What? Go for it.
I think they're trying to create like an in-store experience because they were losing customers online. So they were trying to reevaluate those ones that liked to purchase it and look at it. So they're trying to recreate the in-store experience.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly enough, they do have an online version, yeah? Remember, like I said, they've got the 3. So why are they worried about keeping the real stores if they've got an online version? Yes?
Because they're realising that online more people are buying the products online. So that instead of the store being like massive, like packed with loads of products like it used to be, like a supermarket where the shelves are packed, it's more like a showroom where people can walk in, they can look at the product, compare it to what other stores may have, and then they can go online, do a bit of research. But like, it's better to have a showroom where you can, you can focus on the one item and you can talk to someone about the product rather than it being like packed with loads of things so you're a bit overwhelmed.
So that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to build a relationship with the customer, aren't they? They're trying to build a relationship. Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say, I think they're following the trend of Apple. Because if you go to Apple stores, the customer service there, the experience of their products are completely different to anywhere else. And I think that's where they led in the customer service and people got to experience the products. And then not only online are they strong, but also in the store.
Do people buy Apple products online?
I do.
Do they?
Yeah.
They do a bit.
Only because it's customized. If it wasn't, I would have bought the store.
Brought it in the store. I think that Apple's a slightly different case.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Apple was viewed as a prestige product, right? So it was viewed as a prestige product, and they knew that, and that's where they positioned themselves, right? in a sort of ludicrous way, to the point where you couldn't buy their stuff from any other shop. Yeah, you couldn't go to John Lewis and buy an Apple computer because you couldn't get them. So what they did was they created a shopping experience that was very different than anywhere else. Yeah, and that shopping experience, to a large degree, involved people explaining how the technology worked and then sealing the deal, didn't it? Rather than just showing you where it is. And I think to some degree, Dixon's is trying to copy that, like this chap said over here, right?
How old is that video?
That video is about 2 years old, year and a half. Yeah, they failed.
Most stores have done that now anyway. So.
Yeah. The other thing is this idea of creating a relationship between the clicking and the physical store, the bricks. Yeah? Now, one of the things that Apple gets away with that other people can't is that actually Apple's products are all commodities. They're all bricks. The whole reason you go in there to actually buy the thing is you just want the bag. They only sell 6 things. You can't look in any of them. You can't change any of them. They only sell 6 things. They sell an iPod, right? They sell an iPhone. They sell a iMac. They sell a Power Mac. And, well, not a Power Mac, what's it called? A MacBook Pro. And that's kind of it. And we sell them in a couple of different sizes. We sell no software. And we sell some bits of plastic that you can put on them at exorbitant rates. We'll sell you a little clip for like 50 quid. That's it. They've only got 6 products. Dixon's sells cameras, watches, this, that, the other. Do you see what I mean? So they've got a problem. They sell products that come from lots of different people. They sell competing products. So they're in a different world. Mac could have no one in the shop. People would still go in there and buy stuff. Because there's only 6 things. No one really cares. They just do it. Do you see what I mean? They've washed it down to that. I bet you could run a Mac store in London where people only spoke Portuguese and you could still sell stuff. I bet you.
Well, there are plenty of Brazilians in London.
Yeah, so you could have them all working in that Mac store. None of them speak any English at all, and they still sell stuff to English people all day long. Because there's nothing to say, is there? It's one of those or one of those. It's the yellow or the green. It's the silver or the black. That's it.
But if you go into an Apple store, you know what you're getting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a commodity.
It's not like a supermarket or like John Lewis or something like that.
Or Curry's.
Where you've got everything.
Yeah.
You don't need to make up your mind.
No, you
Your
don't.
mind's already sorted.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Absolutely. And they've managed to achieve that. They've managed to achieve it. And that's why they don't want to spoil it by letting other people sell the stuff.
But that's where they make their profits as well.
Yeah. Feeling that plastic bag. God knows how much we pay for the plastic bag.
But isn't that the same as any high ticket brand? Like if you think about clothes, if you think about a designer,
like Chanel or something.
Well, like it doesn't even need to be that big. Like it could be like just like Hollister or Superdry or something like that, where the clothes they're no different from any other. In sort of maybe they look a bit better, and the quality might be a bit better. But like you go into those shops and you're paying 30, 40 quid for a t-shirt, where you can get almost the same for like £5.
Yeah, but you know the important bit is that almost the same. It's just not almost.
Yes, but it's the same sort of thing.
Yeah, but as long as it's almost. As long as I've got a little G on it.
Yeah.
Yeah? As long as I've got it so that she thinks I spent 200 quid on it. Because ultimately, it's about whether someone is going to like you for buying it. That's why you buy it. And that's why people go into Mac stores, because they think that people will like them for going in there. In fact, they think people will love them. for going in. Do you see what I mean? And for owning them. The big tick, the biggest trick, the thing that clicked Apple over was the iPod. And the thing about the iPod was this. You couldn't keep it outside of yourself. So no one knew you could have it. You had it. If it was a Sony Walkman or any of those, no one knew. So they did something so that everyone knew you'd spent way over the odds for a musical playing device. What did they do?
White headphones.
Yes. They made headphones that were white. Everyone else, Sony, whatever, everyone else in the whole planet had always made black headphones. Yeah? Everyone did. And these guys had white ones. So you were standing there on the tube going to school, and there's a guy over the far side, he's got white headphones. Do you know what that meant at the time? That meant he was rich, it meant he was most probably going to get the better girl than you, it meant, it was all over, right? Because he's got the white headphones. Do you see what I'm saying? Right? Okay, so, this is one of the classic mixes. You've got a shop, yeah? Like Curry's or Dixon's, you've got a shop, and you've also got the website. And the website does things like have a larger selection than the shop, because the shop has only got a physical limited space. But the website might have a larger collection, okay? You can sometimes order it on the web and then go in the shop to pick it up, if you're like me. Now some people order it online and go, it's great, I can have it delivered to my house. I'm like, order it online, I want it now. What do you mean I've got to wait 2 days till someone comes around my house? Where can I go and get it? Yeah, because I'm not very well. Okay, so the convenience of online ordering and home delivery and the availability of high-end and usually lots and lots of products. So that's one move. There is another look. Another way of looking at it is that people look through a physical mailed catalogue, and then they go on the website and check it out and buy it on the website. So they look through the physical paper and then buy it on the website. Yeah, go onto the website and buy it. Okay. Now, of course, what you want to do when you go shopping is you want to be loved, really, don't you? So when I go into a shop, if they go, hello, I feel kind of liked, yeah? But if I go in and they say, hello, Mr. Ohene-Djan, yeah? If they say doctor, then I'm truly loved. Yeah. You understand? If I go in and they go, Dr. Ohene-Djan, I'm truly loved, right? Because they're giving me the personal touch. Yeah? They're giving me and showing me the stuff that I want in the colours that they think will suit me, in the way that they think will work for me. Yeah? So it's the personal touch of it. The problem is online is that's much more difficult to do. Yeah? So adding the personal touch is one of the key things. Many adapted catalogue models that work with the web want to be able to add that personal touch. You want to be able to do things like we saw with the ASOS thing, different sizes, colours, tailor detailing, that kind of thing. You also want to allow customers to examine the clothing and stuff before you get it. So, you end up with this idea that can we create some sort of virtual model for customers to try? Is there some way we can create a sort of interface or some idea which gives us a little bit of a virtual interaction with products and services before we buy them, right? And this is an example of using that approach in a ladies' clothing store, right? And this is real, this was done last year, I think. That was what? It was about 2.5 years ago, 3 years?
Maybe 3 years.
Yeah, nearly 3 years ago. Have we seen it in any stores?
No.
Why not?
It failed.
What? Failed?
Well, it's just
It's a bit of a heavy term.
not
Failed?
failed.
It's a bit loaded. Failed? Remember what I said about success being a never-ending path of failures? Leads you to the golden goose, yeah? So why hasn't it not worked? What?
It's not real.
It's not real.
Like you cannot.
Feel how big your bum is in it. This is the biggest problem, yeah?
If you look fat,
Yeah.
or not.
Yeah,
You
it's
have
no.
to go there and try.
You have to go there. You have to try it. You have to see how it works with your shoes. The idea is that you can get a feel for it. You might get a feel for the right kind of colour that might suit you, or you might get a feel for the right length of dress that suits you. Yes.
But what's stopping you from just standing in front of a mirror and holding the clothes up?
One after the other like that.
I don't see
Yeah,
what's,
but that.
which would cost like next to nothing.
But no fun.
But you saw the amount of time that it took, like people to try and control
Yeah.
it.
I agree. I agree. I agree. Yeah.
The only way that this works, like if you have this online with your webcam,
With your webcam.
Yeah, because if you are on the store, you want to go there to try the clothes. But if you have online, doing that, you have a better idea.
So you could do it in your front room, yeah, at home, and try them on.
Yeah.
And then, but you still got the problem with the.
Yeah, but you're buying online, so it's better to see the color in the skin than
Okay.
even do that.
I see what you mean. So it might work in some situations, maybe in a different context, maybe in the shop is not the right place for it. Maybe, yeah? But interesting. Interesting. You then get what we call fees for content. So this is when you charge money for particular bits of content. Yeah? So you say, you pay us and we'll give you this content. You pay us, we'll give you this content. So you know if you buy a podcast on iTunes, that's what you're doing, isn't it? Yeah? You pay a fee, you get some digital content. Okay? The web there is used as a really good way for distributing that content. Yeah? For distributing that content. And you use the digital content revenue model to sell subscriptions to access to it. Yeah? So Microsoft, for example, have created the ability for the university to buy a subscription to any of their software. So you don't buy a particular piece of software, you just buy a subscription to the Microsoft pool of software, and then you can use it. Do you see what I mean? Okay, so remember I was telling you about the Sun, yeah? Well, the Sun is owned by Rupert Murdoch, and Rupert Murdoch also owns the Times. And it was one of the first newspapers to start charging a fee for content.
From today, the Times newspaper will charge for access to its website. It'll cost readers £1 a day or £2 per week if they subscribe to the online content. News International says it's doing it due to falling advertising revenues. But will it work, and could it set a precedent for other newspapers? Our technology correspondent Jones reports.
You have to pay £1 for the paper. Now you'll need to hand over cash to read it online. The Times has decided that free news on the internet just doesn't add up. The Times and Sunday Times are charging £1 a day or £2 a week for access to their website, and you pay online by card or direct debit. The Financial Times already charges. It costs £5.49 a week for access to all of its content online. Figures show that since the start of April, when users have been asked to register but not pay, online traffic to the Times website has fallen by 60%, while the websites of other UK broadsheets have seen their web traffic rise slightly over the same period. The Times accepts that the vast majority of its online readers will now disappear, but those that do stay will be a lot more valuable to advertisers.
If you can get a smaller number of people who spend a long time there, then obviously they're paying money to be there, but also they're much more engaged, and you can sell more other stuff to them.
What we're seeing is a giant experiment in people's willingness to pay for news. So when they arrive on the Times website this morning, readers may think they're interested in this story and click on it. They'll then have the opportunity to pay £1, but they may choose to go elsewhere, to say the Telegraph website, or the Guardian, or even BBC News, to search for the same story for absolutely nothing. But the Times says covering stories like the war in Afghanistan is a very expensive business, and loss-making papers have to find a way to pay for journalism. The Times proprietor, Rupert Murdoch, wants all his papers to be put behind a paywall.
He's saying that people do have to pay, consumers do have to pay for quality journalism. And I think if he does make a go of it, all the other national newspapers are somewhat in limbo. They say they're going to wait and see. But if he does make it a go, I think we'll see others following suit.
The truth is, the Times has always struggled to make money. But if this online experiment fails, a paper with a great history will face an uncertain future. Jones, BBC News.
So that is a classic example of a fee for content. Yeah? Lots and lots of businesses are doing it. Do you think people will pay for good quality content? Who thinks they'll pay for good quality content?
Depends on the cost.
Yeah.
I think so. I think if the content is good, and if that content is quality content, people are willing to pay for it. I think what they found is that there are no free lunches. Yeah, what you end up is with poor content. What you end up is with content that's biased, or you end up with content that is prejudiced in some way. It's not real content. The problem before was how to pay. Now we can pay very easily with things like our phones and stuff. We'll pay. No one has a problem paying for apps. They just pay. It says 69p, you click the button, you pay it. It says £2, you click the button and you pay it, don't you? So people will pay for good quality digital content, but it has to be good quality. Yes, sir.
I think the main problem isn't the paying the money, it's the sign up thing. I think a lot of people don't like
They
it.
hate the sign up.
Signing up is
That's
the worst
right.
thing to do in the world.
They
When
hate
you have
that.
to verify your email.
Yeah, they hate that.
Like, I think people don't have a problem with paying.
Do you have to
money.
sign up when you buy stuff from the
You
Apple
have to
Store?
sign in, so you would have had to sign up.
At one point,
Yeah,
at the
at one
beginning,
point.
but then you can buy anything from any store, and that's what people want online. They want the ability to maybe register once somewhere, and then to buy from wherever they want using their PayPal account, for example, so they don't have to sign up every time. Yes, sir.
I think some of the companies have realised that sign up people don't like, so some of it gives you an option to sign up using your Facebook.
Yeah, that's another route. That's very true. That's another route. Okay, so these are all examples of good paid, pay for fee for content models. But people like Amazon have made a whole business out of it. So you take stuff like the Kindles. My wife bought me a Kindle. My girlfriend bought me a Kindle the other day. He's sitting on the side, right? My and girlfriend sitting on the side, right? Still not open. It's just kind of existing in that soon-to-be obsolete world. It's only been there a couple of weeks. Then you've got the iPad upstairs. That's existing on another shelf. These are other devices man does not need. Right? So here's the question. How come Amazon's managed to ship millions of these things?
Ease of accessibility.
Ease of accessibility, but something else. The fee for content model on the Kindle is integrated. You buy the Kindle, you can just start downloading books and start reading. You want it on your iPad, you got to get the Kindle app, you got to register it at Amazon, you got to do all kinds of weird stuff beforehand, so you don't get the Kindle experience, do you? The Kindle experience is that you can push stuff back up if you don't want it. You can get hold of free stuff. All of that doesn't happen. So Amazon have rebuilt their business, or part of their business, on this fee for content model. Yeah? Fee for content model. Netflix, fee for content, isn't it? Yeah? So they have destroyed Blockbuster. Blockbuster doesn't really exist anymore. Yeah? Yeah? Blockbuster doesn't exist, and what people do is they log in and they watch The Wire at $5.99 a month. There's a fee, and you can watch all our content. And people do it, don't they?
Spotify.
What?
Spotify.
Spotify. Who here pays for Spotify? I pay for Spotify. I don't even listen to music. I pay for Spotify. What's wrong with me? Yeah? So, fee for content. Agreed? Fee for content. The big kings of this, people like Apple's iTunes, Google's Music, Microsoft's MSN Music. These are all big, real players. Rhapsody. Yeah? Give you a good example. Who here do you know that uses Rhapsody online, or what's the thing that I use every day? Yeah, Real Rhapsody. Okay, so we're using. Anyone know who uses that or how that works? It's a streaming service, right? Like Netflix, like Spotify. Who does this? Who pays for those things? A lot of the time, they're connected to some physical device. So the growth of things like Spotify, in part, has come through the growth of things like streaming audio systems, like Sonos and things like that. Yeah?
Another one is that I really don't understand why people subscribe is Twitch TV. Like, if you subscribe to a certain channel for £5, you get like emailed when they're like streaming, and you get like a little icon next to your name when you post a comment or something in the chat. Like that is stuff like
what do they
that.
do on Twitch TV?
It's people streaming games, whatever.
You're playing games.
Right. Okay, you'll have to forgive me. I'm just
That's
too
fine.
old.
But like, I don't like people obviously do it. Like people have got millions of subscribers, thousands, hundreds of thousands.
And do they pay?
Well, the people, yeah, they pay £5 to subscribe.
£5
and
to
all they
subscribe.
get is like an email when the person is.
But do they not get special content as well?
No.
Why not? There must be something. We'll look at it, me and you together. There's got to be some hook. There's got to be some hook. Okay. Obviously, there are some problems. Musicians hate Spotify. They hate it. If you know anyone who's a real musician who sells records, they say Spotify is the biggest waste of time in the world. They hate it because it pays nothing. You get 60 zillion plays and we'll send you £2. It's insanely bad.
But for selling records, it's the same for the artist, isn't it?
No.
Like, I think most of it.
But no one buys records. But for selling records, it's much better to take the money from a record sale than a play. Do you see what I mean? What Spotify pays the artist is for the number of times other people have played their record. Yeah? So it's the amount of times it's played. And they pay nothing. What they do is they tell the artist, if lots of people play your record on Spotify, they'll go and buy it. So the way that they convince the artist of the fact that they get nothing is to say, don't worry, they'll come and buy your record. That's why artists play gigs. Yes?
People highly overestimate how much money artists make on iTunes or something. You hardly make any money. Yeah. YouTube, you hardly get any money. Especially for artists, it's different for people that are like YouTubers who upload like regular content, because obviously they're doing like 5 videos a week and hitting 2 million views on each video. Then they're going to be making a much profitable thing. But artists who are releasing 1 a month, 2 a month, and iTunes pay absolutely nothing.
It's just
and you have to have an aggregator anyway to get your stuff on iTunes, who take like 20%, I think 15-20%.
It's a racket. Yes, sir.
I guess what they care, it's not like mostly the money from it, but also some artists thinks of it as a, because it's entertainment, they need to spread the word.
That's what I'm saying. So that's what they'll say to them, is they'll say, don't worry, lots of people will play your stuff if it's on Spotify, and then they'll know about you, so they'll go to your gig, or they'll... But do people really use Spotify that way? It's a question mark. Yeah? It's a question mark. Okay. So fee for content models.
James,
Yes.
can I have the register,
No.
please?
We'll have to register at the end of the lecture. How long's the lecture? 12:30. What's the time now?
11:45.
Why are you thinking about leaving? We've only just started. Or as the song says, we've only just begun. Okay. And of course you have this sort of whole idea of digital rights management. So this is this idea that you can manage who can play a particular audio file. Yeah, or a particular video file. Okay? So that, for example, you can only download stuff onto that paid device. Right? Onto that paid device. And there was a lot of work on that. Another area where there's a lot of fee for content is, of course, online video. Buying the video, the problem is it's very, very large sizes, and also you want to play it on lots and lots of devices. What we're seeing more and more is streaming. So we're using new technologies to stream the content. The only problem with streaming is you have to be online. Yeah, the moment that you're offline, the whole thing falls to pieces.
It's offline mode.
Well, the moment that you're offline, the whole thing falls to pieces. If you've got on offline mode, you've got to have downloaded it onto that device first.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean? So it's had to come down. We're seeing more and more of video and TV content go online. So the other day, the BBC announced it's closing one of its terrestrial channels. And who is talking? Would you like to come up and do this? Okay, then be quiet so that I don't hear you talking, so everyone else can hear what I'm trying to say. Okay? All right. So the BBC the other day closed down BBC Three. Yeah? That was this week they announced it. They closed it down and they said it's only going to be online. So it's only going to be using new technology and distributed online as a different strategy. A lot of people around the world like to see the BBC. So they want to charge for the iPlayer abroad. Yeah? So that will be a fee for content from the BBC via the iPlayer. Yeah? What's Sky's method of fee for content on the machine? Sky at the moment is doing something called Sky Go. Yeah? And Now TV. Now TV is basically Sky that you pay for, as you use it on a meter. So, definitely things are moving in this direction. And it seems to be successful. This is the New York Times, who also did...
Turns out the New York Times paywall is paying off. In fact, it's proved so popular for the paper's website that, come April, it's adding more. CNN.com reports the paper has decided to cut the number of free stories non-subscribers are allowed to read in half. Right now, people without a subscription can read 20 free stories per month on their website, but soon that number drops to 10. A reporter for the Wall Street Journal, which also runs a paywall, says the New York Times saw the numbers for paid content on its website and thinks there's more paid subscriptions ranging from $10 to $35 a month to to be had.
Now they're saying, look, there's actually a bigger group of people we think will pay us every month for access to this. But we still want people who aren't paid to come by and visit. We want them to visit us from Google. We want them to visit us from Twitter and Facebook.
And Fox Business has more of the numbers behind the decision to build up the paywall. Plan has the potential to give the company an influx of $100 million in annual revenues and set a roadmap for the rest of the industry. It also revealed 454,000 paid digital subscribers to the Times and International Herald Tribune, marking an impressive 16.4% rise since the end of 2011. Politico obtained the memo sent to New York Times employees about the coming change. In it, publisher Arthur Sulzberger Jr. seems very happy about his paywall. This is truly a cause for celebration, as nearly 500,000 people are now paying for digital content from the Times and the IHT. But the move, which is based on the success of the initial paywall, isn't without skeptics. Media Life magazine says expanding the wall doesn't necessarily mean more money. The major issue in any discussion of a paywall is figuring out just the right formula for maximizing revenue, weighing the increased subscription revenue against declines in ad revenue from the fall off in traffic as some number of readers stop coming to the site or come less often rather than paying for access. Look for the Times to implement the changes for non-paying customers in April. For Newsy, I'm David Earle, multiple sources, the real story.
Okay. So who thinks that that move to going even further into the paywall for fee for content is a good move? Do you think it's a good thing or not? What do we reckon? Ultimately, do you think it will work? Yeah? So ultimately you think it's most probably that the way things are going to go, we're going to pay little bits and pieces for content on a regular basis. Okay. Well, you also get this idea of a fee for transactions. So we talked earlier about Amazon, and Amazon's main website was losing about $7 per customer, every customer it had. So every person that was coming to buy something on Amazon was costing them $7. That's completely unsustainable, isn't it? Yeah? So you're making a loss on every single customer. So they rebuilt the business, and they rebuilt it as an intermediary business. So they rebuilt it as a business that took a fee for every transaction through the site. So every sale through the site, they took a fee. Yeah? And they provided the hosting for that. You know, and it offers books, newspapers, magazines, and other stuff. It also allows you to set up your own Amazon store, doesn't it? So other people can find your stuff. So if you've got a product that you want to sell, you can create your own Amazon store in order to do it. This is the difference between the two businesses, say Apple and Amazon.
With a look at the retailer's business strategy and how it stacks up, Sheila, to the tech giant Apple. Yeah, everyone loves to talk about Amazon and Apple in the same breath, right? They often compete for the same customer. They have visionary founders, but very, very different operating philosophies at the heart of it. So first, you talk about product. Apple, all about these beautifully finished products. Steve Jobs, of course, was the genius at the unveil of the product. You know, Tim Cook is continuing that legacy. In fact, he has said publicly, we don't want to have 1,000 different products going. We just want to focus on a few things. Then you have Jeff Bezos, completely the opposite, right? He has said, we have seeds planted everywhere. We just want to come to the market as quickly as possible. And here's a really funny story. Apparently, when Amazon first came out, you could actually order a negative number of books and make money from Amazon. That's how quick. How does that work? So you could enter a negative number of books when you ordered it, and then you would get a credit for it on your credit card.
That is so.
But it's just a data point to show you
how crazy it is. Yeah.
How quickly they want to come to market. They're willing to experiment. They're willing to incrementally innovate. So big differences there. Also a big difference in pricing. Apple, of course, a premium product. You pay a lot of money for these beautifully finished products. Amazon coming out and saying, look, we want to sell things to you as cheaply as possible, and you can see that loud and clear in their results as well, right? These razor-thin margins you're actually talking about. Apple margins, north of 30%. Amazon actually had a negative operating profit last quarter. And then finally, you have to talk about cash hoards, because that's a big topic people love to talk about. Apple's big cash hoard, $137 billion. You know, Larry Haverty from Gamco actually said that he thought Apple may get sued over this. Amazon doesn't hold that cash; they like to reinvest. Okay, Sheila, hang on. I want to bring in Tom here in on this. I mean, how long can this strategy for Amazon last?
So if you think about where Amazon is today in the fourth quarter, they're in the midst of a very hyper investment cycle. So they're adding new hardware. You talked about the Kindle Fire. We think at some point they'll have a smartphone. They're investing in content for Amazon Instant Video, and they're adding fulfillment centers to get the product to the consumer faster. So at some point, they're going to hit scale in fulfillment centers. They're going to slow the rate of hardware investment, and I think you'll see a natural pullback in the margin.
Okay.
I don't know that necessarily would be 2013, because I think there's a lot of things they still want to invest in, but at some point, I think you'll see a rebound in the operating margin at Amazon.
Tom, what is at some point going to happen? Because when you look at the numbers, Amazon has actually only had $5 billion total in profit since 2003. So that's it. This is a company that makes $80 billion in revenue, and since 2003 has only made $5 billion in profit. That's incredible. When are investors going to get tired of this and be like, look, we finally want to see the money to the bottom line?
Well, I think investors will get tired when you start to see a slowdown in the sales.
Yeah.
So, but culturally, I think of Amazon like a Walmart or a Costco as a low-margin company. They believe in offering consumers low prices, and they don't intend necessarily to have pricing power and to take up margins over time. So I think that you're going to see a natural rebound in margins, but I don't think they're ever going to become a huge profit center like other companies in the space like Apple you're mentioning.
Have investors ever complained about sort of, like you mentioned, the diversity of products, sort of the everywhere that Amazon is? I mean, is there any sense that it should be more focused at all, like an Apple?
So when the stock's under pressure, there's two common complaints. One is that they don't make any money on anything they sell, and the second is that the valuation's too high. So I think that right now, if you look at the stock, it's had a very nice run, and people like it in the space, so you don't hear a lot of comments on valuation.
Sure.
But I think if you ever see a quarter where their sales aren't as strong or as robust as people expect, comments on valuation and low profitability will spring up for sure.
Well, to that point, does growth at
Okay, so you get the idea that the two businesses are very, very different, yeah? Very, very different in terms of the kind of product, the kind of margin that they're looking to make on that product, their whole strategy. We're spread out everywhere. We're Amazon. We're niche. We're Apple. Okay. Now, of course, one of the areas where people believe that the whole of the internet can be paid for is with advertising. And this is this idea that advertisers pay a fee to place their ads. Okay? So advertisers pay a fee to place their ads on websites, on magazines, on books, in music, wherever. Okay? So Spotify, the advertisers pay a fee to place their ads in between the records. Yeah? On the Times, the advertiser pays a fee to stick their ads next to the news items. Okay. Now, one of the massive problems is measuring and charging for visitors, knowing what the value is of lots and lots of people going to a site. How much is that actually worth? Does anyone know? The weird thing is we all think that we can avoid ads. But clearly we can't, because if we could, then advertisers wouldn't make money. So something else is going on, yeah? We watch Facebook. Who here clicks on ads on Facebook when they're on Facebook? Who has ever clicked on an ad on the side of a Facebook page? What was the ad for?
Intentionally.
What?
Intentionally.
Yes, intentionally. What did you do it for, madam? For a movie. So you clicked an ad on the side to go and have a look at film. And where did you watch the movie from? Which site? Okay, cool. So they gave you a personalised ad at the side, said that there's this movie, you can watch it.
For you to log in onto that, you can either use your Facebook account or create a new one. Me being lazy, obviously, I use my Facebook account.
Yeah. So that way, when you use your Facebook account, do you know what happened? Yeah, so, but they also got a list of all your friends.
Oh yeah, loads of
So they got a list of all your friends, all the places they went, all the photos they uploaded, all because you were too lazy to put in your own registration. Do you see what I mean? So you have become their product.
Yeah, actually, I clicked an ad once intentionally. It was about developer tools and offering like easy deployment cloud services.
Sure.
So it was actually interesting, and I used it.
Cool, and you used it. Excellent. So there is a degree of it, of course. How do you keep people coming to the site? Yeah, sorry, carry
So
on.
I was going to ask, you know those annoying phone calls you get where, you know, it's, but there's also some phone calls where you answer and there's no one there.
Yeah.
And sometimes you may think it might be a company that's testing a random number, seeing if someone picks up and then can sell on that number to advertising companies.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right, okay.
That's exactly what happens. That's why half those emails, if you open one of them, even though they are for some nonsense, if you open it, a message is sent back to say that that email account's live. So then we start sending more junk to you. See what I mean? So it's a similar thing to the phone. There is other questions around advertising, which is advertising's effect negated the more advertising there is? So as more and more advertising arrives, does the power of advertising get less? If there are 1 million ads, you add one, your ad is weaker than if there's only one ad. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And the internet is full of ads. So how valuable are these? People don't really know. They don't really have an answer for it yet.
But you could never know because it depends on the customer.
Well, in the old days, they used to have measures. So in the old days, they could say that a newspaper ad in the Times with a readership of 100,000 is worth Y. Because you would assume, you could argue that 1 in 4 readers would look at it. So you'd have 25,000 people look at your ad, and therefore it was worth Y or Z. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
But nowadays, you can't really do that. It's a big question. There are lots and lots of magazines and newspapers that are supported purely by advertising. The Huffington Post, it's ad only, it's completely free. The Drudge Report, ad only, completely free. How Stuff Works, ad only, completely free to the user. Okay? Sometimes you get personalised advertising. So on things like yesterday, it was really weird. I went to a website yesterday called made.com, right? And I just looked at some furniture, just had a quick look. Every other website I went on that night had adverts for made.com. You know, so I'm suddenly trying to read the newspaper, and it goes, yeah, made. I didn't go in and had to read about the football. Made. Yes, sir.
And the same happened to me when I bought the tickets from Brazil to London.
Yeah.
After I started searching for them, there were ads everywhere. Like,
For London, come and see, come and see Beefeaters. James will be here. You ever been to New Cross?
Yeah, sure.
Just loads of ads, yeah, for London. That's right. That's right. Okay. So we think about advertising. There's sort of, excuse me, 3 strategies for advertising supported revenue. There are 3 strategies. The first strategy is to say we've got a general interest. It's a general interest website. It's a news website. It's general interest. Advertisers pay low rates to reach large numbers of completely undifferentiated people. Yeah? Can you think of an advertising platform that always works on the basis of general interest? billboards. You know the billboards you get on the street? Yeah? When you advertise on billboards, they're always general interest, aren't they? Yeah? So it's general interest. We've got a new car. There's a new house. Get a new mortgage. You know, fly with our airline. Advertisers pay low rates because they have loads and loads of people pass that billboard, but they're all, you don't know anything about them. People drive past it all day, walk past it all day, you don't know anything about them. So a billboard is a classic example of the first strategy. The second strategy is a specific interest strategy. And advertisers pay even higher rates to meet less people who are all interested in the same thing. So, if you were looking at something like Vogue magazine, Vogue magazine is a women's clothes and fashion magazine. So they know that there will be a smaller number of, oh yeah, and it's also for women with lots of money. Yeah, so women with lots of money, clothes and fashion. That's it. Vogue doesn't do politics and Vogue doesn't do Primark. Yeah, it's lots of money, fashion, yeah, magazine. So it's only got a few people that read it, much less people than the number of people that would see a billboard, but it's a special interest group, but advertisers pay more because there's a small number of very specific people. The third is a collection of specific interests, and advertisers pay high rates of advertising for specific pages that will appeal to visitors with specific interests related to those pages or sections of the site. So this is segmenting off the world into different parts. Segmenting off the world into different parts. Now, the people that do that kind of thing are things like web portals. Yeah, web portals will do that kind of stuff. MSN is a good web portal, yeah? So it has lots and lots of specific things of interest, and everyone goes through MSN to do it. Who here uses MSN? Who goes anywhere near it?
When it was popular.
When it was popular.
Yeah.
But now,
It was like
anyone
6 years ago.
go into it? Why not? Sorry? Because you don't have the time.
No, MSN you're saying like
Not the messenger, not the MSN messenger. I'm talking about the website itself, the portal. Let me see if... I don't know, but we'll try and see if we can... No, it doesn't matter. If no one's actually going to it, who cares? There was a time... We'll see. Right, yeah. I mean, the MSN website is like a news portal. So they have like fashion, horoscopes, sport, travel, movies, reviews, all of that stuff in a one page that you go into as a starting point to the web. And there was a time where people thought that those starting points to the web, those portals, would be the way it would all go. And so like if you bought a new computer, if you went on the browser, it would always take you to the web portal. It would always take you to the MSN homepage, for example. Yeah? And the other thing they used to stick on the homepage would be your Hotmail account. So you would log into your Hotmail account from there as well. Okay. Now, there are many, many advertising supported revenue models. And advertising supported revenue models have classified ads that are speckled around in all over the place. Online newspapers are the classic ones. We've had a look at that. The problem is, of course, what happens with the sales of the real paper when people are diverted across to using the digital one? Do they stop buying the real one? Yeah? Does one cannibalise the other? Do you think it happens or not? Yeah? Do you think people just go, I'll just read it online, I won't bother to buy the real one? Do you think that's what happens? Or do you think people want the real one? Now, if you take something like the Evening Standard in London, do you know the Evening Standard newspaper?
Free newspaper.
Right. What do you call it? The free newspaper. Now, the Evening Standard never used to be free. It used to be a paid-for newspaper. Now, they have people standing at stations just desperately giving it out. And you see how desperate they are. They go, are you breathing? Yes. Have a paper. Are you breathing? Yes. Have a paper. Why do they just want to give millions of them away?
The more they give, the bigger the money.
How are they getting the money?
Because it adverts. The more people that they give it to.
Yes, that's right. They need to tell their advertisers they have a certain circulation. Yeah? So they want to say to their advertisers, all of London reads our paper. The only way of them doing that is to make sure all of London gets a copy of our paper. So my mum was ill. I was in the hospital, right, every day. And I'd come in the evening and there'd be a massive pile of Evening Standards, like huge, just left in the hospital. Yeah? Why? Because all of they count for readers. No one's even picked them up. It's 7:30. Everyone's gone home for their dinner. But in the head offices of the Evening Standard, they were all read. So they go to the news. Where else do they go? They go to the airport. They stick a load of massive piles. Do you notice when you go on a flight in the airport, there's all these free newspapers? Wow, the Telegraph. There's like 85 million copies. It's so the Telegraph can say they have a circulation for that. For their advertising supported revenue model. Time Out. Do you know Time Out? It's a listings magazine. It like tells you where all the clubs and bars and restaurants and all that stuff. That was a very high value, expensive magazine. It was like £2, £2.50. Now they just give it away at the station because they reckon they can get the money from the advertisers, but they've got to shift a lot of them. They've got to hand a lot of them out. Okay, so that's a move from paid to advertising. Now, of course, you can get targeted classified advertising, and there's a lot of it on things like, Google Mail. So if you use your Gmail account, you'll get ads down the side that are really targeted, aren't they? So if you say, we had a great time and maybe we'll go to Greece next year, boom. Next thing you've got adverts for Greek travel tavernas, yeah? And travel agents. Yes, sir.
Do you know if the Time Out and the Evening Standard, do you know if they make a profit?
Well, they weren't before. They were in trouble. So that's why they've made the move. Do they make a profit now? They're still in existence. So I guess they're making money. The problem with newspapers as well is they're a little bit like trophies. Do you know what I mean? People pay over the odds for trophies. So I don't know. It would be interesting to find out. You can Google it and find out what the Evening Standard made last year. But its model now is all circulation, it's advertising. That's why they're desperately handing out the paper everywhere.
For how long have they?
It's only about 2 years, not even that.
Metro have been doing it for longer.
Well, the Metro have been doing it for longer, but it's a slightly different thing with the Metro, because what is the Metro? What is it? The Metro is a cut-down version of a paid paper. So it was running, there was a paid paper running, and the Metro was a cut-down version of the same paper. Do you see what I mean? So it was running as a free one And what that also does is what YouTube did. Remember what I said what YouTube does? YouTube charges nothing. If you can charge nothing, it's very, very difficult for competition to arrive. Because they've got to have startup costs. And so by creating the Metro, it forced anyone that was thinking of coming to do an evening newspaper in London to stop. It was a blocker. Because people have tried. There have been many attempts at there was a London Standard Evening News. There was a lot of different attempts at trying to do an evening newspaper in London. But how can you compete with the one that they're giving away for free? Because 90% of people are going to pick that one up. People used to pay a little bit for the Evening Standard because it was a better paper than the Metro. Now the Evening Standard's free. So it's kind of like diluting it all, yeah? Diluting it all. What's the time?
12:20.
12:20. Okay, just a couple more minutes. Right, so there are lots of sites. Sometimes you get like a mixed model. So if you go to somebody like Auto Trader that sells cars and allows people to buy and sell cars, Auto Trader, they'll have adverts for car insurance, won't they? They'll have adverts for HPI checks to check that the car is a legal car, that kind of thing. Yeah? They'll have ads for insurance, that kind of stuff. Yeah? And you might pay a little bit and get some advertising or a mixed model. There are lots of different versions of it. Yeah? Lots and lots of different versions. Okay. So, let's just have a quick recap. If you look at stuff and you say most of all the content is free for all visitors, things like the Boston Globe, Newsweek, PC Magazine, The Time. What kind of most of the content is free and a little bit is paid? New York Times, Washington Post. Most of the content is only available to people that pay. Most of it. The Times, which we've looked at. Sports Illustrated, Nature, The Economist, The Harvard Review. Notice something. A lot of these have started off as high-end ones, aren't they? They're the more expensive ones, where they assume that people are going to be willing to pay. Yeah? People are going to be willing to pay. Okay. ESPN, that's another example of that. Right. So, I'm going to stop now because you all look destroyed. What I want you to do for next week, so make sure, okay, who here wasn't in that lecture? You weren't.
Last week.
No, in there, this morning. She was. Who wasn't? Everyone was here. Okay. Make sure you're in a group. It's your responsibility to be in that group. Make sure your group sends me, by next week, the names of the people in the group and 2 ideas. We will then talk through the ideas and stuff next week, and we will then create the video messages. Agreed? And then we'll go from there. Okay, thanks a lot. And we'll carry on looking at this next week. We'll finish this off.